Yeah, so the Travelling Salesman trip was all about finding startups and scouting around for startups throughout the Nordic region. I mean, I'm a startup entrepreneur myself, obviously, and I've been working in the Helsinki region for a number of years and really have very little idea of anything else outside Helsinki. So not even in Finland, like Tampere and Oulu, let alone places like Norway and Denmark. So I wanted to find out, what is the startup scene like elsewhere, and also to bring some visibility to the groups around. So I traveled through 5 countries, 5 Nordic countries. So that's Finland, Norway, Denmark, Iceland, and Sweden. And we had like meetups and events in each of these locations. And then I wrote about the startups that I found and the people that I found and the adventures that happened along the way. And this took place from October to December, so it was kind of winter months. And all in all, it was 13,500 kilometers. Yeah, so it was the car that we used was a Land Rover Defender, which is a classic kind of expedition slash adventure car. And when we were discussing this, it was always in my mind that, yeah, it should be done in a Defender, because that's like any proper expedition you have to do in a Defender. And thankfully, we got the loan of one from Ville Miettinen, and it worked perfectly. Absolutely nothing went wrong with the car at all. And once you get used to the driving position and stuff like that, it's not too bad. It's actually pretty comfortable. It's noisy and it's not very fast, but it's a lot of fun. Yeah, the Finnish part was actually pretty easy in comparison to the other countries. So we had good events at each location. Some of them were bigger and some of them were smaller. But there was a good vibe and people were willing to help. So we went from Helsinki to Lappeenranta, and then to Jyväskylä, Kuopio, Oulu, and then over to Norway. And then we did Tampere and Turku and Vaasa on the way back. And I think that went really well. Whereas in a lot of the other countries, it was very difficult. We didn't have the contacts in place and people weren't responding to us. So we didn't know exactly, who to contact and who would help us to arrange things. So a lot of things just happened by me arriving and starting to knock on doors, basically. But Finland went really well. Yeah, I mean that varied a lot. So if it was something that they were prepared for me, and that we had an actual kind of event, then that went along pretty smoothly. It was always very exciting because you never know what's going to happen. But people were very, very positive with that. In other places, as I mentioned, we would just, arrived, or I arrived and didn't have any contacts and just started knocking on doors. And the best example of how that can work is when we arrived in Umeå in Sweden. And I went to the university building and to the reception there, which was in the library, and said, "Do you know any like entrepreneurs and startups?" And we're doing this kind of thing. And she mentioned that there's a building, like an incubator nearby, where we should go. And but then she said that yeah, but it'll probably be closed. I was like looking at my watch, and it was like only 4 o'clock, so surely it's still open. She said, "Yeah, but it's Saturday." So I'd completely lost track of time, and then we did eventually go there, but we got lost along the way. Thankfully enough, because then we met a couple of people just on the street and asked them about entrepreneurs and startups in the region, and they knew of one guy, and we searched online for the name of the guy, and then got a phone number, and I rang the guy, and I heard like sort of children in the background. Sort of crying and stuff like that, so like maybe it's a bad moment, but I explained what I was doing anyway, and he was really enthusiastic and mentioned that there's a conference at the library where we had just been, and that they're enjoying drinks and stuff like that. It's like an after party, so we went there, and yeah, it was fantastic. There was loads of people there and cool things going on. And then the guy that we originally rang, we didn't know this guy at all. He arranged a hotel, like sort of reduction on the price as well. So that's the kind of coincidence that can happen. But then there were some places where we went and we didn't find anybody, and we just no contacts whatsoever. Yeah, I think there's still work to be done in the Nordic region. I mean, there's a lot of technical know-how, so that's pretty much everywhere. Even places like really remote places like Tromsø and Iceland, a lot of really skilled people. But at the same time, I just felt that for a lot of the startups, they maybe lacked still a bit of that ambition. The worldwide kind of global success story kind of ambition. A lot of them were focused on doing maybe Nordic versions of American concepts. So I think it's all to do with breaking through these barriers that we've had in the Nordic region about entrepreneurship not being great or not being a good lifestyle. But at the same time, there was a lot of grassroots activity taking place, and this is something that's been very new. Helsinki has been excellent at that. There's a lot of activity going on nowadays, but also in Denmark and Sweden, a lot of sort of things slowly taking place and people working really hard to do that. So I think there's a lot of potential here. Yeah, there were actually surprising differences between the different cities. As one example, in Denmark, I went first to Odense and then to Aarhus. And in Odense, they actually had a robotics lab and things like that there, which was kind of interesting, but I couldn't find any like startups. It was all like university-led kind of research thing. And I talked to one of the people at the university who was in a so-called Idea House, which was supposed to promote entrepreneurship. But they basically said that students aren't interested in entrepreneurship. Just like, yeah, I'm not sure if that's totally correct. And even their office wasn't marked on the map, so it was very low-key kind of thing. Whereas in Aarhus, which is only a couple of hours away, there was like a huge incubator, and then there was a really fantastic student incubator as well, where like a whole bunch of startups kind of working together in this room and sort of comparing ideas. And as I said, that was only 2 hours away, so a big differences there. Yeah, I think that's a very sort of Nordic kind of thing anyway, that the governments do support the startups or try to. There are differences. My feeling, and I might be wrong, but my feeling was definitely that in Sweden, a lot was surrounding like government-supported incubators and government-supported programs, which used to be the way in Finland, but I think we've kind of broke free from that, so that now, while we do have the incubators, their role is maybe less important or not as strong. And also I think that the startups here are kind of ambitious in the way that they try to contact the media and things like that themselves. Whereas in Sweden, I think there was a feeling that they were kind of waiting for things to happen through the incubator. So that was slightly different, yeah. I think we were all pretty much the same in that respect. So that, everywhere you went, there was always something that you could find and something going on. Maybe if we're talking about software, maybe Norway is a bit difficult because they have such a big business in energy and food and fishing. So maybe there it wasn't as obvious. It was kind of difficult to find startups there. On the other hand, Iceland, which is a tiny country, I mean the whole country is smaller than Helsinki, measured by population. Loads of startups and loads of sort of software companies taking place. Yeah, I think everywhere it's the curse of like the big industry. The big industry gets a lot of funds, even from the government. Whether that makes sense or not, I don't know. But I think that, apart from Norway, which is so energy focused, apart from that, I think everybody has to think about new ideas and new startups. I think none of the countries can survive without startups and new businesses taking place. Well, you probably already read about the time when the car was broken into. So I don't know if that was weird, but that was unfortunate. Because at the time, Willy, who owns the car, was with me for that one day. And he even asked me that, did I leave the car in a secure place? And I said, yes, it's indoor parking, it should be fine. And we arrived at the car, and the windows were smashed, stereos were gone, Willy's binoculars were gone. So that was not a happy moment. But apart from that, a lot of things went surprisingly well. I mean, even the obligatory stomach bug that I had happened just at the time when I was supposed to have a break anyway. So I was lying in bed anyway. But it was just weird and funny coincidence, like I mentioned, the one in Umeå, and also things like in Karlskrona in Sweden, southern Sweden, where a lot of people said that I shouldn't go there. There's nothing really there. And then I went and followed like a chain of events, and then ended up at Telecom City, which is full of startups. It was like packed to the brim with startups. And they were actually saying that, not a lot of people know that Telecom City is actually in Karlskrona. They know of Telecom City, but they don't know that it's in Karlskrona. There's hardly any cooperation whatsoever. That's something that I have a bunch of contacts, and we need to start building on that. But very, very little. So they don't really know about each other. Maybe in Denmark, Venture Cup was actually quite active in Denmark, and they were doing a fair bit. So I think there's a bit of that there. But elsewhere, not really very much at all, to be honest. Yeah, there's been a lot of talk about it. People would like us to do Baltics. That seems to be the #1 area at the moment. I'd love to see Eastern Europe as well. I think those are areas where there's a lot of ambition, and people want to talk about what they're doing. Because that's one of the things that we noticed in some places, that even though they were entrepreneurs, they were kind of not wanting to talk to us always, which was surprising. For instance, actually in Aarhus, at the big incubator, I went to talk to the CEO of the incubator, and was asking about startups, and he said that he doesn't really want to talk about any sensitive information because he doesn't know who I am. I said, well, I don't even want to know any sensitive information. I'm just asking about the scene here. And then I asked that, could I meet some startups? And he said that no, that he's trying to protect them from the media. I was like, what the hell? Just couldn't figure that out at all. But I think in Eastern Europe and Baltics, it will be a very, very different story. So we definitely want to continue, but it depends on sponsorships and people who would be willing to help us, because I can't do everything on my own, so I definitely need help there. And if we can get all the arrangements together, then, and hopefully people want us to do that, then we'll be happy to help.